One of the biggest problems that we have in our modern world right now is mental health. I personally have been struggling with anxiety and depression throughout my life, and it has peaked over these past few years. I've always been able to kind of keep it to myself because I've always been good at avoiding them and finding ways to cope so that it wouldn't bleed into my interactions with other people. But after months of internal back and forth about whether or not I needed therapy, I decided to give it a shot. That was 1 year ago today. And I wanted to share what it's been like for me to start therapy as someone who's never done it before. So if you are someone who's been thinking about starting therapy and wondering if it's right for you and if it's worth the time and money, this is the video for you. Spoiler alert, it's worth it. I'm definitely the kind of guy that doesn't like asking for help. I like solving my problems on my own, probably a combination of control issues, but also really secretly deep down, like, I don't want people to think I'm weak or vulnerable or like stupid. So when the idea of therapy would come up, I would dismiss it pretty quickly. I would say things like, therapy is only for people with severe mental health issues. I know what my issues are. I don't need to pay somebody to tell me them. Talking about your problems doesn't solve them. These kind of thoughts stop me from ever considering therapy as an option because the truth is, while I do like dealing with problems on my own, what I really like is ignoring my problems as long as possible because I don't like the feeling that comes with dealing with them. When I was at Halloween last year, a music festival that takes place over, surprise, Halloween, down in Florida, I was talking with one of my best friends and he brought up the idea of therapy and that he really thought that I could benefit from it. For him, therapy had been such a huge help in his life and he didn't know where he would be without it. And the timing was pretty perfect because I came to this music festival with kind of like a heavy heart. This time last year, I was dealing with things like, I don't know, I was just feeling pretty lost and confused and just unsure where my life was really heading, kind of aimless in a sense. So we were talking about therapy and just, the benefits from that he's gotten from it. It hit me pretty hard because I saw that I was letting my ego prevent me from considering it as an option because in my mind, I had already decided that it wouldn't work, And saying it out loud and in that moment, I realized that it was a pretty stupid reason, honestly. How do I know it wouldn't work for me? I haven't tried it. And really, what would be the worst that happened, I wasted my money to try it. What am I spending that money on anyway? Like fast food, video games, my savings account, basically all things I don't really need. I'm just kidding. I guess saving money is pretty important, so I should continue to do that, whatever. So then with his support, I decided to give 4 sessions a try, which was weekly sessions for about a month. And that's where I started. Finding a therapist was the hardest part, I think for sure, of starting therapy, just because for me, starting something new and like I said earlier, asking for help, especially from a stranger, are 2 of my biggest weaknesses. So when I started looking, I originally was gonna try BetterHelp because I had seen a bunch of ads for it and it seemed pretty easy to get into, but I was kind of turned off at first about doing therapy online and telehealth. I wanted to be in person, like the classic, my head on the couch and he's sitting there writing notes or whatever. So instead of that, I tried to find a local therapist. And to do that, I used a site called Psychology Today. Why did I do that? Just say Psychology Today. I tried to use a service, I used a website called Psychology Today. But it turns out almost all the therapists I saw online in my area use what? Online, I forgot. Use telehealth as their only way to deal with clients. I guess, probably COVID and they switched over and they're like, hey, this kind of works and most people want to do telehealth anyway. So I said, whatever, I'll try it. I'm already this deep. I don't want to look too much further about finding in person. I picked one and reached out for a quick chat to see if their practice was a fit for what I was dealing with. We had a good chat. We talked about, some of the things that I was thinking about I was dealing with and how they've helped people in the past. Honestly, I'm glad that I did this phone call because it gave me a taste of what therapy was kind of like without having to commit to a session, which then, gave me more confidence to then commit to, the 4-week sessions. That whole first month was kind of like an intro process. We chatted about my goals at the first session as like a starting point, but then soon after we kind of just carried on the conversation to whatever I was thinking about that day. I learned pretty quickly that it was a place where I could talk about whatever I wanted, and anything I said would just stay between the two of us. Because guess what? They can't tell everybody else, or else they lose their license, so they have no reason to tell anybody your secrets. So after the first month was up, I decided to keep it going. I felt better after each session, so it was obviously having a positive effect. And from that point on, our sessions kind of went something like this. I would start the session by just blurting out whatever was on my mind, whether it was some homework that we had from the last session or just the stresses of everyday life. They would chime in after listening to my rambles, and they would either then prompt me with a question or offer some insight into what I was feeling. Then after that, I would then jump back in and continue my rambling. And then once I ran out of things to say again, they would then, chime in, offer the question or the insight. And we kind of just then had a conversation back and forth, repeating until our session was over. I would say the experience was kind of like having a 3-way conversation between me, myself, and my therapist. Because often when I would talk, I would catch myself fixing what I was saying as I was saying it. So for example, if I was venting about how I didn't get everything on my to-do list done that day, I was then able to be like, oh wait a minute, but I still did 2 of the items on my 10-item to-do list, because I make to-do lists that are way more than I can do. But then when I would catch myself, I'd be like, oh, that's not really that bad. I still did 2 of the things, and that's still a win. So then I was kind of, defending myself while I was talking. I don't know if that makes any sense. And I know I said I was looking for in-person sessions, but I actually kind of like the telehealth sessions. I can join from wherever I'm at, and it doesn't really disrupt the flow of my day. Plus, it kind of made it feel more personal, kind of like I was just having a FaceTime call and more conversational. I think that kind of helped me open up a little easier and quicker than I would probably if I was in person. I have been making these little, I'm gonna lose some light and stuff. Yeah, it's a little dark, but whatever. I've been making these little, what I've been calling hard cereal, or gloopy cereal. That's what I've been calling it. So gloopy cereal is essentially just Greek yogurt and granola. So it's like cereal and milk, except the milk is like expired milk. And then this is granola. Just all of it. And then we mix it all up. And there you go. Gloopy cereal. Okay. Water. Speaking of water, what are we talking about again? So, the big question, is therapy worth it? In short, yes. I think it's totally been worth it. If I compare my life today to where I was at this time last year, honestly, I don't really feel that much different. I still struggle with my anxiety and my depression, and because of that, I sometimes think man, therapy just isn't working at all. But I think the reason why I think these things is because I have these expectations for therapy that it should completely fix my problems and I will never have to feel those things again. Which is silly, because anxiety and depression are natural feelings, and I'm gonna be feeling them again and again. That's just like life, So when I say therapy has been worth it, it's because it's helped me find better ways to deal with those feelings. The best way I can describe it is it's kind of like when you start running. During that first run, your whole body is aching and everything is telling you to stop what you're doing. But after a few more workouts, your body starts to adapt and your mind remembers that this pain is only temporary. You've survived that pain before, so you're gonna survive it again. So now when I get really anxious or I wake up feeling really depressed, I'm able to bounce back quicker than I was before, because I recognize that these feelings are natural. They're completely natural, and I'm gonna be feeling them no matter what I do. just spontaneously. I try to embrace these feelings and remember that this won't last forever. I've survived them before and I will survive them again. And I think that is what therapy does, is it helps you practice being in those feelings. So then when you do feel them, you're able to understand them and not just, panic, I guess, for lack of a better word. It's tough being a person. We may not have to struggle to find food and shelter like we did in the old days, but our modern problems with mental health are very real, and you don't have to feel ashamed for having those kind of struggles. If you've been considering therapy at all, I encourage you to try it. If you go into it with an open mind, I promise you'll get something out of it, even if you don't end up liking it. There are a number of resources out there today that you can use to help start your journey. While I haven't used it personally, I know BetterHelp is a great service to give you a feel of what therapy is. I think you can do just text-based therapy. I think you can do phone calls and video calls. I'm just trying to remember what's in the ad. And all those can be great feelers to be especially if you're really closed in and you don't like talking to new people. It can be a way to, ease yourself into feeling comfortable sharing yourself. You can also use Psychology Today like I did. You can just put in your zip code and it'll find local therapists near you. So you kind of got a camaraderie of where you are locally, or I don't know. Man, it sucks that it's fallen back. I'm not wearing a watch because the sun is setting so early now that I keep forgetting, I've lost all of my light in here. But I just wanna, I guess, just finish up out here. Taking the first step is definitely the hardest. I know it was for me, and admitting that you need help and finding a therapist and all that, it's stressful. But I hope me kind of talking through my experience has maybe eased your mind a little bit and making that first step a little easier. Thanks again for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you got something out of it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace. Man, I'm so awkward with goodbyes. I've done this take 14 times already. That's why I had to come outside. Ugh. I'm so awkward.